Welcome to the War Room. This is War Room Pandemic on Tuesday the 5th. 5th? No, it's the 9th of February, the year of our Lord 2021, broadcasting from a still locked down Capitol Hill, the occupied Capitol Hill, in an increasingly disturbing political climate, and we'll get into some of the new headlines out from the World Health Organization, some of the comments by AOC over the last 24 hours. But of course, all importantly, it is the beginning of the impeachment trial 2, version 2, 2.0. And you might be wondering to yourself, wow, Steve looks different today. Steve is on a special assignment this morning. He's asked me to fill in here. And so I've also asked Terry Schilling to fill in for me here in studio. So Terry Schilling, Executive Director of the American Principles Project, joins us here on Capitol Hill in the War Room. All right, welcome. We've got a packed out show, loads of guests for you today, and with lots of cause as well. We have a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover from here in the United States, from in flyover country, all the way across the world to the Chinese Communist Party. We'll be covering it all with a brief stop by here in Washington, D.C. And I say brief because I want to get this impeachment graphic up here so people can see it on their screens. The political classes, the establishment themselves, recognize, understand, and accept how ludicrous this whole scenario is. How do you know? Because Axios, the running dogs for the corporate elite in Washington, D.C., have in their daily morning newsletter not impeachment at number 1, not impeachment at number 2, not impeachment at number 3, not impeachment at number 4. It is the 5th story of the day in the Axios morning newsletter. That is basically a screw you to the Democrats. Your news narrative is simply fundamentally uninteresting. It's not driving eyeballs. Jack Posobiec texted me earlier just before the show was about to start showing me, I think a third of all Americans say they have no intention of watching any of the impeachment proceedings. That's an astronomically bad number if you're the Democrats and you have only one thing in mind, which is using the apparatus of the state, which is using the U.S. Constitution and the impeachment, the solemn, remember the prayerful impeachment powers contained within, as a political circus, as kabuki theater, as a means by which to flog Donald Trump, punish the Republican Party, and a third of the country say they're not even going to watch it at all. Do we have the graphic? Can we get the graphic up on the screen here of the distinctions between the last Senate trial and this Senate trial? Because I really think it bears looking at. This came from the Associated Press, landed in my inbox this morning, thanks to Axios, who puts this at number 5. And just look at the differences. What a difference a year makes. For the audio audience, I'll read you through this. 2020, the Senate control, Republicans, 2021, 50-50. The articles of impeachment in 2020, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. 2021, incitement of insurrection. The presiding officer in 2020, Chief Justice John Roberts. The presiding officer in 2021, Senator Patrick Leahy, Democrat. The allotted time for each side's arguments, 24 hours each last time around. Cut down this time to 16 hours. Witnesses, last time, of course. This time, maybe not. Chucky Schumer suddenly forgets his claim last year where he said, real trials have witnesses. So if we're holding them to their own words, this is not a real trial. And then, of course, Senate attendance during the trial. Last time around, of course, senators are required to remain at their desks. This time, because of COVID, senators allowed to view proceedings from the gallery above or from an adjacent room. It's a farce. It's a total farce, what we're seeing here. And I want to bring you the other piece of breaking news from the Daily Mail's homepage. You know, the most powerful homepage, arguably, in the news media in the world is the Daily Mail, just unsurpassed in terms of traffic to the page and influence that paper has. And it pertains to that, right? The senators are cowering in adjacent rooms or in the gallery because of COVID. And Joe Biden and his regime is joining back with the World Health Organization. What's the World Health Organization doing? Let's put it up. The World Health Organization is backing all of the Chinese Communist Party's claims, all of the CCP claims. No, this didn't come from a Wuhan lab, etc., etc. Looks like it passed through an animal. It's been a year and the WHO wasn't given access. What are you finding out now? When all the primary evidence, when everything on the ground has been erased or tweaked or changed or thrown out by the Chinese Communist Party. And the Mail's headline is incredibly powerful here because it shows you the most influential paper in the world, does not buy it. Does not buy the World Health Organization line, does not buy. You heard on Bill Maher of all places last week, them saying, hey, it's not a 50% chance that this came from the Wuhan lab. It's a 90% chance this came from the Wuhan lab. WHO goes over there for a couple of days, goes, hey, we figured it out. The Chinese Communist Party was telling the truth the entire time. Wow, amazing work. Just amazing from the WHO there. All right, I want to jump to Arizona, bring in Sonny Borelli here. District 5 Senate seat there in Arizona. Sonny, thanks for joining us here on War and Pandemic. We got an update from Arizona. Man, it's kicking off down there. I want you to update our audience. Take us away.
Good morning.
Morning, Sonny.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
What's the latest?
I'm from Phoenix, in the great state of Maricopa, which I call the occupied territory. And I don't mean that lightly about the occupied territory or the state of Maricopa, because the Maricopa County supervisors believe that they are a state of their own. So we're fighting with them over a subpoena to get access to all the voting equipment and ballots and digital copies of the ballots, everything that we need for our Senate investigation for election integrity. They're completely blocking it every inch of the way. They challenged our subpoenas in court. They said they wanted to work things out. The judge basically said, you guys need to work this out before I rule. They said, okay, we'll work it out. We'll come to an agreement. We thought we had an agreement. They keep changing their story. They've broken their agreements. They've misled the public. And then, believe it or not, yesterday morning, they fired a temporary restraining order in the court to fight the Senate to block us from voting on a resolution of contempt. Now, just think about this. They're asking the court to violate separation of powers and totally ignore the Constitution. It's just amazing. It's just amazing here.
That is just incredible. We've had Mark Fincham on. We've been walking through some of the details on the where it came down to the document that went out last week saying, hey, Maricopa County Board doesn't comply with these subpoenas. You are going to be arrested. And people want to know what is the latest on the threat of the arrest, these 16 Republicans who signed that letter. Why hasn't anything taken place? Because that was some pretty strong rhetoric there, and some might say even close to the action, getting close to the action. So where's the action? Where's the meat on this?
Well, like I said, unfortunately, yesterday morning, the filed a temporary restraining order because we were going to vote on the resolution for contempt.
Yep.
Now, all 16 Republican senators signed the document last week. We voted to suspend the rules to bypass a committee hearing, so that way we can go to a floor vote as early as Monday, like yesterday. Well, we put it up for a vote, and at the very last minute, one of the senators decided to change his mind without telling anybody, without giving anybody notice that he had reservations or concerns, and basically just blindsided us all and
hang on.
betrayed us all.
Yeah,
against his word.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, blindsided. That's a in-your-face betrayal. Who is this? Who is this person that's changed their mind without any telling anybody, warning anybody, consulting with anybody? Who is this?
Senator Paul Boyer from Legislative District 20.
And his claim is is what? Suddenly we don't want to hold the Board of Supervisors to account?
His concerns were that we were rushing through this and we were basically bullying these supervisors, and that the supervisors believed that we should go to court for asking for the physical paper ballots and other things, which is amazing because, he's supposed to be a smart legislator. He served as an intern early on in his life, and then actually became an elected official at the legislature. So he knows the law, or at least he should know the law, and should trust our attorneys. And even if he sought, wanted another opinion from another attorney, he could have done that. But he should have given us the courtesy of at least letting the Senate whip, which is myself, or the president of the Senate, and said, hey, wait a minute. Don't put this up. I've got some reservations. I want to discuss this. He believes that we should go to court and have the court decide if we have validity in issuing the subpoena on having all this data and information that we're asking for turned over to the Senate for examination. We are having an investigation, and the county supervisors have been obstructing an investigation for election integrity. So Paul Boyer thinks that the courts should decide, that the legislature does not have the plenary authority over this, which he's sorely mistaken. It's just troubling all the way around. But just the egregious part, I was just not even telling anybody. So we're basically betraying his own colleagues, betraying the president of the Senate, and embarrassing us all because the vote was actually 15-15 and needs 16 to pass. It's just completely outrageous.
That's State Senator Paul Boyer, District 20, ladies and gentlemen. We like to make people famous on this show, and I think he'll be probably getting a few phone calls. Make them nice, make them polite, but make them robust, ladies and gentlemen. Sonny, before I let you go here, we're up against the break here, but before I let you go, so where does it go from here? Because it seems very clear to me that if you're in the middle of an investigation, you have the authority, you have the power. I actually went through, when Mark Fincham gets on the phone to me last week and he walks me through everything that's going on, I actually went through some of the Arizona legislature documents to make sure that what he was saying and the process that he was laying out to me was actually correct. I know it's crazy, but we actually do real journalism here. And we went through it. It was all correct. It did work. It worked out. We had the story, by the way, up on the National Pulse with a link to where it says that the Sergeant at Arms has this power and where it's derived from. So where do we go now? Because it seems to me that you have the power. Why should it go to the courts?
Right, exactly right. We don't have to go to the court. We have standing on this whole issue. And I broke it down like this. The argument is not about the election. That might be just a foregone conclusion. But what we have here is a political subdivision challenging the sovereign authority of the state Senate or the state legislature. That's it right there. What's next? You have a political subdivision like the county challenging us. What's next? A city council, a school board, a fire district. I mean, we're lawmakers. They're basically telling our other colleagues are saying it's okay to just violate the law, ignore the Senate, ignore the lawmakers. It doesn't matter. Let's just have anarchy and chaos.
Sonny Borelli, we're up against a break here, but I really thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure. We'll get you.
My answer is we're not giving up. We're going to continue to fight, and if we have to do it in court,
Solid.
we're going to
be right
take
back.
Another round at this resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
So usually I mock some of these things with lots of bylines. Some of these stories you see with 7 or 8 bylines on them. Actually, there's an NPR story called The Capitol Siege, The Arrested and Their Stories. And I think it has 8 or 9 bylines on it, but you can actually see why. There's actually one of the few incidences where it's worth having all those people working on this story. They've basically put together hundreds of the people who were at the Capitol on January the 6th with a summary of their stories and their charges in a table. And what I want the audience to do, if you're so inclined, if you have the time, is actually start going through these and going through the people and their backgrounds and their stories and their charges, because we are being sold a narrative right now. And whenever, ever in my life, I have just scratched the surface of the establishment narrative, as you well know from sitting here with us from the back in the war room, impeachment and the early pandemic and everything that's going on right now with Fauci, we'll get onto that. You scratch the surface of the establishment narrative and it actually starts to fall apart entirely. Not just a little flaw here or a little flaw there, the entire thing. It's the same thing we did with AOC. You know, we just scratched the surface of, was AOC really in the line of fire on January the 6th? Wow, somebody get her Purple Heart. And you scratch the surface and you realize, well, no, she was nowhere near any of that. Terry, we'll come to that in just a second. I want to bring Frank Eathorne into the conversation. For the ladies and gentlemen watching this right now, didn't catch us right at the beginning, Stephen K. Bannon is on assignment today. So you're stuck with me and Terry Schilling here in the War Room. And I also want to bring people's attention to, there's a new live chat functionality that we have up on americasvoice.news. I know I give the America's Voice guys such a hard time over things like this, but I'm channeling the audience, right? The audience gives me a hard time. So we've got a new live chat thing up there. It's got thousands and thousands of people in the live chat right now. We need you and we want you to be a part of it. I watch it live in the show every day. It's americasvoice.news. The live chat's down there. By the way, if you're using, and I found this out the hard way, if you're using an ad blocker or a pop-up blocker, it's not going to work for you. See, unfortunately, you've got to use Safari or some other browser that doesn't have that built in, but it's a solid chat, and shout out to everybody in the live chat. Let's bring on Frank Eathorne, the Wyoming 3 candidate and chairman for the Wyoming GOP. Frank, thank you for your patience and being with us today in the War Room.
Good morning. I appreciate the offer to be on.
So, Frank, I love the hat, by the way. That is absolutely just beautiful. It's a beautiful shot. I gotta go, by the way. I'm not sure it'll be totally authentic, but I gotta have to get one off you, Frank. Where are we? Where are we now in Wyoming? Because you know we're sitting here in Washington D.C. and Verizon, PAC, and all these big law firms and the K Street crowd are constantly feeding into our email inboxes and everybody on the Hill and everybody downtown in D.C. saying Liz Cheney has to survive. She's one of the good girls. You know, got to keep her in there. That's all I hear all day long from the lobbyist set. How does that play with what's going on in Wyoming?
The people of Wyoming are not buying the narrative. And simply stated, I came on the show today because I was prompted by more voices that say we've got to have a response to Representative Cheney's rebuttal. And so that's why I'm here. I know Chairman Carenti from Carbon County, who kicked off the language necessary for the censure, was on yesterday. Yeah. There's just a couple details I want to point to.
Please. Go ahead.
So it was an overwhelming vote. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Okay. We had a regularly called Wyoming Republican Party meeting, quarterly meeting, last weekend, and it was an overwhelming vote to support the censure. And that comes from the numerous town halls, 16 county parties that had heard from their constituents to support censure and publicly disagree with Representative Cheney on her decision to impeach.
So let me ask you this, because she's coming out and she's saying, and by the way, she's on page 1 of the Democrat legal brief, right? She's the first person that they quote for the impeachment. The second person, by the way, is Mitch McConnell as well, and we can get into that another time. But these are the people that they're relying on to go after the former president, 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and to go after his base, right? And to go after, which is 75 plus million people out there. So what is the rebuttal to Liz Cheney's rebuttal here? Because she's going to claim, hey, you had the vote, we had the thing, you lost in the Congress, I'm here to stay, I'm not going anywhere, and she's going to be in your face about it.
Well, there's two problems with her rebuttal. One is I believe that she insulted the voters of Wyoming. These are the people that entrusted her to represent our voice. And we're not buying the narrative. The people of Wyoming, number two, are very intelligent. I cannot count the number of times that people have approached me on any given issue and quoted article, section, clause of either the Wyoming or the U.S. Constitution in response to an issue at hand. And so, I know the word rube came up yesterday. It's unfortunate that some would choose to view Wyomingites that way. We are anything but. We are on top of the issues, well informed, and again, we can cut right through the narrative.
Hey, Frank, Terry Schilling here. I agree with you. I've met a lot of people from Wyoming. I think you guys are super smart, but you're also gritty. You like to fight. You like to pick battles that you can win. So tell me, how are we going to make Liz Cheney, how are we going to hold her accountable? Is there a candidate out there? What if there's not a candidate out there that's talking about primarying her? Is there someone out there? Is there a profile of someone? I mean, you can't have some carpetbagger move out to Wyoming and challenge her. That's not going to be successful. But are there people waiting to see who can take her on and beat her in a primary?
Great question, Terry. That is the primary focus. Again, this is not necessarily our leading. It is our job to oversee elections and recruit candidates, and that is taking place. The grassroots is speaking up like never before because they want solutions to the problem at hand. They want somebody in Washington that will represent each and every one of us. And so the criteria is going to be based on the platform. And our platform outlines the timeless principles and can be found at www.wyoming.gop. The Republican National Committee holds interest in our platform. Other states recognize our platform as pure, simple, fundamental, directly from the founding fathers. And so that's what we are going to focus on when we're looking at candidates. Those are the kind of questions that those candidates will be asked.
Has Liz Cheney even been there recently? I mean, I know she got the empty chair over the weekend, but I'm not even sure that she leaves K Street. Frank, has she been around?
That's a problem. The invites remain open door. She's been invited to numerous counties. Representative Cheney was specifically invited on 2 accounts to come to our regular meeting, and we just wanted her there to give her the opportunity to take questions and make a response. But instead, she chose to go to Fox News. And I think the people of Wyoming are still waiting to hear a personal response. Our national delegation, they usually come to state convention. They usually come to our fundraising dinners and other events. They're speakers at those, and we get to see them regularly. And unfortunately, over the past year, partly due to COVID, that has changed. But Wyoming remains mostly free and open to have face-to-face meetings, as evidenced Saturday, state convention all summer and all through the year of 2020 once we got past the month of May.
Frank, how can the audience stay in touch with you? How can they keep connected with you and what you guys are doing there? Because, what's happening there, people recognize that it's coming to their district, it's coming to their state, and they see a greater disconnect day upon day upon day with their representatives. So how can people follow along and learn the lessons that you guys are, I say unfortunately learning in real time. Actually, I think it's a fortunate thing that you're getting to get rid of this person, and I think it will work out in the short term. So how do people stay tuned? Are you on social media? Where do you post?
Our party has 3 main conduits of communication: website, email, social media. So I'll repeat that website. It's very simple. It's the construct that the Republican National Committee uses, www.wyoming.gop. You can sign up for our weekly emails. You can like us on Facebook, and you can send emails to me personally at chairman@wyoming.gop. Everything's streamlined so that it's easy to remember.
Frank, we really appreciate your time today, and keep on the good fight. Frank Eathorne there, the GOP chairman for Wyoming. Want to bring Ben Bergquam in now from Capitol Hill, just to give you this juxtaposition of what's taking place here and what's taking place out in the country. This is where Liz Cheney resides, right? This is where she, you look at those barricades. Ben, we've got 1 minute here, and then we're going to bring you back on the next segment. But just describe the scene around and behind you.
Well, you know, you have the song about the CCP, the lead-in song, and I got to tell you, more and more and more, this is starting to look like the CCP out here in America. This is the People's Republic of the District of Columbia, I'm starting to call it. The same people that don't want walls on our southern border are just fine with having this wall and razor wire around our Capitol, around our White House, and around our Supreme Court. The three areas of government, the three constructs of our government, we the people as the sides, and it's tragic.
Yeah, Ben, hang over the break, because that scene, that shot is incredible. That tells you everything you need to know. People on the southern border would kill to have a fence like that in the places that aren't protected, but they're not allowed it. But DC is. We'll be back. More War and Pandemic. Just a second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
For him today. He died as a result of the January 6th mob attack on the U.S. Capitol. This is after a rioter hit him in the head with a fire extinguisher.
The Capitol Hill Police headquarters there. It is in remembrance of Officer Brian Sicknick. He died from injuries after being struck in the head by a fire extinguisher during the storming of the Capitol.
Officer and veteran Brian Sicknick killed as a result of Wednesday's chaos. Officials investigating reports that he was attacked with a fire extinguisher.
An altercation with some of the rioters that Officer Sicknick was struck in the head with a fire extinguisher.
Officials investigating reports that he was attacked with a fire extinguisher.
Rioters hit him in the head with a fire extinguisher, and that was the cause of his death.
Of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick have been looking into reports that he may have been hit with a fire extinguisher.
For him today, he died as a result of the January 6th mob attack on the U.S. Capitol. This is after a rioter hit him in the head with a fire extinguisher.
How long have we heard that story for? In the immediate aftermath, despite Officer Brian Sicknick's family saying, hey, please don't politicize the death of our son, every news media organization repeated and repeated and repeated. That's just a small... Cameron put that together, the team in Denver, producer Cameron, put the clips together, a small segment, a cross-section of these people who have been saying that over and over and over again. And on last Tuesday, CNN sneaks out a story, says this, quote, according to one law enforcement official, medical examiners did not find signs that the officer sustained force trauma, so investigators believe the early reports that he was fatally struck by a fire extinguisher are not true. Are not true. Are not true. Have we heard any corrections, any apologies? Have we had Anderson Cooper back up there? Did they ask Ted Lieu, who's making these claims, to apologize, to resign? How dare you besmirch the name, besmirch the history, the legacy of this person for your political ends? Has anybody been held to account for this? And I know if you listen to my podcast, I know I'm banging on about this for the third or the fourth day running now, but I think it's disgusting the way that they have used this man. He was killed with a fire extinguisher, killed with a fire extinguisher, killed with a fire extinguisher. Of course, it's disgusting that he died in the first instance, and whoever was responsible should be held to account. Of course, it goes without saying, but I say it anyway. For the idiots out there at Media Matters who will go, oh, but Raheem didn't even say. It's obvious. Everybody believes that. Everybody thinks that it's terrible that anyone dies in these situations. That's why it was our side that was doing a running commentary last summer about every single atrocity and incident that was taking place around the country as a result of the wild Black Lives Matter riots going on. But the media wouldn't say David Dorn's name. But they would say Brian Sicknick's name when it suited their agenda, and guess what? Now suddenly it doesn't suit their agenda anymore. They have to sneak out a story that says, by the way, all of our reporting has been, I'll read their words, CNN's words, not true. Not true. Why am I angry about this? Why am I banging on about this? Because there are still millions upon millions upon millions of very well-educated people out there who think this narrative is true because they didn't see this buried CNN story, because they don't necessarily read the nationalpulse.com or listen to my podcast. They should. But we're building the audience. Ben Bergquam, I want to bring you into this conversation here. Ben, this to me was extraordinary, the way they leveraged this man's death and the way that they have, politically campaigned on national news networks as a result of the death of Brian Sicknick. But let's take a wider view of all of this, because you're standing there in front of the Capitol. Somebody in the live chat, by the way, asked the question, hey, they got that fence up really quick. They got the materials, they got the fencing up, they got the manpower, everything was done, I mean, really fast. They told us, hey, there's no chance of doing this on the border. It takes too long. We're not going to do it. Too expensive. They got that one up there real quick. So when you step back, it's impeachment day, right? Again, it's the trial. Again, Groundhog Day. Ben, when you take a step back, you look at all of this. Tell us where we are. Tell us what the view there is on Capitol Hill.
Well, it's hard to decide where to begin. You're absolutely right. The propaganda media that we have, the reflection this is a reflection of the propaganda media, what you have behind me and what you just said about the officer. The fact that they had the impeachment papers ready to go the day after the uprising, the insurrection, whatever you want to call it, the riot here at the Capitol, when they hadn't even done an investigation, blaming President Trump for what happened that day, when they hadn't even done an investigation. They say the officer, Brian, was killed with the fire extinguisher to the head when they hadn't even done the investigation. This is part and parcel to who the Democrats and the Democrat propaganda media are. We are living through the age, it's post-constitutional America. It is whatever we deem it to be. And this is also a reflection of why so many Americans believed that President Trump was Hitler, that he was a fascist, that he was a Nazi, that he was trying to take away your freedoms, that he was a terrible president. They created all these narratives that were outright lies, but they said them enough that dumb Americans, ignorant people that don't do their own research, like you said, or just people that are busy, that don't have the time to do the research, believed it. And now we're living through that. And now we're having a time where we actually have, you didn't want fascism? Well, you just elected it. If you're a Democrat or one of the bots out there or one of the, the 69 million people that actually voted for Joe Biden, you just elected it. We are seeing a shift in America away from constitutional freedoms towards totalitarianism and a loss of freedoms. You can see that with the executive orders that have been signed and every layer of government. Wow. Your freedom of speech being censored, yours, Raheem, everybody who stands up and says something against the Politburo that is in charge of Washington, D.C. and across America now, you are attacked and vilified. This fence is just another reminder of that hypocrisy, double standard, and everything that the Democrats are today.
I think it's a reminder of something much darker as well, and it goes back to what you were saying about fascism, Ben. Terry, I want to bring you into this conversation here. Think about it. Everything we've been told that Trump was going to do and that he was scary and a fascist because of, right? Bullying the media. We've seen Jen Psaki doing it several times, and we have a clip of it later on in the show today in live press conferences trying to shut it down. Remember, the White House wanted pre-written questions by the media. Yep. Executive fiat. Mountains and mountains of it. He signed 40-something executive actions in his first week, Joe Biden. The lockdown of the U.S. Capitol with razor wire outside of it. People being the big tech media purge. And remember, people from big tech, Pamela Karlan on the Facebook Oversight Board, has just now gone into the DOJ. It's this overlapping of big corporate and big government, which is, by the way, the dictionary definition of fascism. Right. All these things and so much more, you're actually seeing fascism being in America.
It's so scary, and those images in front of the Capitol building are so depressing, especially for someone like me. You know, my dad was elected to Congress. It was wide open. People could walk in. They could explore the whole Capitol. I think that this situation hit a sweet spot for progressives. They love to flex their muscles. They love to show the people who's really in charge and their authority. And it gets that other sweet spot of they want to be protected. You know, there's a reason why they haven't built that southern border wall and why they built this. They want to intimidate the American people. And that's what's so sad. The biggest thing, though, that I'm taking away from this is, you know, President Trump caught some grief in the early stages of his administration when the media was just outright lying about him. They created this whole Russia collusion scandal and all of that out of thin air. And he said, the media's acting like the enemies of the people.
Right.
And they flipped out about that. That fence with razor wire, by the way, at the top of it, around the Capitol, it goes all the way to Union Station. It's a huge radius. That fence says that the American people are the enemies of the people. It's terrible.
Ben, we got to jump. We got to bring Tom Farnan in. Final thoughts here.
That's 100% right. We are living through leftist fascism. I mean, it's really it's the conglomerate of business leading government and government leading business. That is the definition, as you mentioned. And it's sad because so many people have been blind to it. I just pray that we can stand up and stop it in time before it destroys this nation like it's destroyed every other nation it's been attempted in.
Ben Bergquam, Real America's Voice, out there on Capitol Hill for us today. Thank you so much for joining us here on the day that the impeachment trial begins again. Let's bring Tom Farnan in, lawyer and author of The Russia Lie. Tom, thank you for joining us here. Your thoughts, you text me this morning on all of this stuff. We just had to get you on, and you know, all of the lie upon lies upon lies that we continue to hear. Terry just laid out some of them, goes right to the heart of your book, which I believe is still available at therussialie.com. Tom, it's impeachment day, Groundhog Day again. Your thoughts?
Yeah, as you were all talking, I kept thinking of the word desecration, because it's a desecration to falsely describe a man's death to advance a political narrative. It's a desecration to use the institutions of government to further a political narrative. And that's all this impeachment is. It's a show trial. It's a desecration to have that razor wire around the Capitol. And these people don't care. It's all about advancing a political narrative. I'm sitting here in the snow of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm happy to report, you know, most people aren't buying it. Most people understand that there was not an insurrection at the Capitol on December 6th. President Trump did not foment an insurrection to seize control of the United States government in a failed coup. It's ridiculous to even assert. There was something sacred happening that day. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution permits Americans to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. And overwhelmingly, what was happening on December 6th was Americans going to Washington, D.C. in a peaceful manner to petition the government for redress of grievances. They felt that there was something wrong with the 2020 election, that shenanigans were played. And I'm happy to say, you know, that would have been difficult to prove, and it is difficult to prove. And we've done a lot to, you know, draw out some of the inferences that prove it. But the other side, you know, has such hubris that they took to the pages of Time magazine last week to confess to it. They said, yes, you know, there were shenanigans. Here's what we did, and here's how we did it.
They actually walk us through, Tom. They walked us through how Mark Zuckerberg dumped cash into Democrat areas, how they changed the laws without going through the state legislatures. All of that wildly unconstitutional, wildly unlawful. The way that the election was conducted in your state, Tom, in your state.
Yeah, Raheem, and had they been listening to you in October, they would have known, you know, this was coming because you were reporting it. And you were reporting about a lot of these things that were happening. And I think I was on this show and I said, I think Trump's going to win, but he's going to have to overcome the cheat. And I think the the smart money then was that he would have to overcome 5% on the cheat.
Right.
But I think there was much more on the cheat.
Tom, we got to go to a break here. Would you hang on? Would you hang over the break, and we'll bring you back in?
Yes.
Okay, that's Thomas Farnan. You got to read his book, by the way. The Russia Lie is just one of the most fantastic, short, digestible versions of what really took place, what really went on, and how that has implications for everything that's going on right now. It's at therussialie.com. We'll be back. More Tom Farnan. Jack Posobiec joins in just a second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Tweeting that he tried to have you murdered at Capitol.
Okay,
Capitol riot.
So that's not the quote,
Okay.
and I will not apologize for what I said.
Guys, I think we're actually done this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Can we talk to you later?
Wow, AOC on the run in her own district, running away from the press, who are asking her, hey, you claim that Senator Cruz tried to have you murdered. She goes, it's not actually the quote. And then somebody steps in and goes, I think we're going to leave it there for now.
The saddest thing is, though, she's going to get away with it.
Right.
She's going to get away with it. They're not going to ask it anymore. That's it. That's the end of the story. It's done.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll see. The war room is growing, and I think when you listen to a lot of the people, and we've got more of this, when you listen to a lot of the people who are asking hard questions of Jen Psaki and asking hard questions like there of AOC, I get that they're not taking instruction from us, but they're looking at our reporting. They're looking at the reporting of Jack Posobiec and what he found out about AOC and all of the things that we put together, and therefore we're leading them to a point where it would be ridiculous if they didn't.
No, that's
ask
a very
those
good
questions.
point. That's a very good point.
I get it. The media's lazy. I get it. You're lazy. I know you're watching this. I get it. So we're going to do the work for you. You take the credit. You take the bylines. You take the clicks. Fine. Whatever. I have no pride of authorship on that. Right? You take it. But we'll do the legwork. We'll do the research for you. You just use it, right? And I want to see more of you out there on this Brian Sicknick thing. I want to see more of you out there asking AOC the tough questions. And Jen Psaki, by the way, getting lit up by one of the nicest men in media, Peter Doocy, right? When you get lit up by Peter Doocy, you know you're doing something wrong, right? That guy is nice.
Super nice.
You know. Speaking of nice guys, let's bring in two Pennsylvanians here, Jack Posobiec and Tom Farnan. Tom, conclude your thoughts for us on the impeachment trial and what we're going to see today.
I think we're going to see a show trial. I don't know if you've seen the movie or the musical Chicago, but there's a song in there about razzle dazzle, and a part of any trial, I'm a trial lawyer, is razzle dazzle. There are the facts and there's the razzle dazzle. This is going to be all razzle dazzle. It's going to be all, Orange Man bad, Trumpists bad, and they're violent, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see, unfortunately, a show trial, and we're going to see some feckless Republicans that just sit there and let it happen, and I think that is incredibly unfortunate. When Mitch McConnell turned to those peaceful protesters from December 6th or January 6th and called them a mob, he showed what's wrong with elements of the Republican Party. You don't do that. It was inappropriate. Their right to protest is sacred. If some people breached the Capitol, many of them were not Trumpists. The shaman guy had nothing to do with Trump. He was more akin to the Super Bowl streaker, I think. And Mitch McConnell should have made those distinctions. And he should have turned the focus on himself a little bit and said, I'm the Senate Majority Leader. If they breach the Capitol, it's partly my mistake. I should have gone to some of those meetings about security.
You're right about the show.
We're going to see it.
You're right about the show. All pathos. It's one of the things our side really fails at doing. Tom, where can people reach you? Where can they follow you?
I'm on Twitter at T. Farnan Law, and on Gab, the same place, T. Farnan Law.
Yeah.
And I write for you, Raheem, at the National Pulse sometimes.
We're trying to get more out of you, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your thoughts. I want to bring Jack Posobiec in now. Push for time here. Jack, you heard from AOC. She says, hey, I didn't say that. It's not me. By the way, gotta go. Gotta run down the street in the snow.
Raheem, I have a new policy. It's not just for birthdays. It's not just for Christmas presents. I am saving the receipts all the time now for every single thing that AOC says. Look, we know what she said. We have the tweet. It was a week and a half ago. But I'm applauding her for this clip because this is amazing. Not just the gaslighting, right, that she permits, but listen to the second thing that she said. I will not apologize. Right? This is the person who wants struggle sessions in our country, who wants to institute a struggle session for anyone who's wearing a red MAGA cap, who wants to institute a struggle session for anyone who's posted a Donald Trump meme on Facebook or liked a page. She wants to institute struggle sessions for thee, but none for me. I will not apologize. I will not go back over my quote. I reject your question, and I'm leaving. What a way. Not only is that an incredible way to deal with the struggle session, but wow, what a course in media strategy, right? When they come at you with something like that, you reject it and walk away, Bigfoot them, and then boom, have one of your staffers come in as you just walk away. It's incredible. And imagine if more Republicans were like that, because a Republican would be apologizing and falling over themselves to accept the narrative, whatever narrative was presented to them. Now, the difference, of course, is flipped, because in this case, the New York Post reporter was actually asking them a truthful question.
Right. Jack, you often remind me of a teetotal version of Andrew Breitbart, in the sense that very few people can flip the narratives around once they've already been established. And Andrew was a master of doing that. You're a master of doing that. This is why they fear you so much. You went right to the heart of the details. Like you always say, right? Maps change. Maps just, you can't lie a map, right? And you show... Exactly. And you showed exactly where she was. We knew exactly what was going on as a result of all of that. And now, look, she's literally, not figuratively, literally on the run away from reporters in the snow in her own district. And I just think that's an insanely great accomplishment for our side that usually struggles to get reporters and journalists to recognize the truth and to see the truth, Jack.
Right, what a visual to have someone ask a basic question of AOC and for her to tuck tail, run away in the snow. I think she slipped at one point. I hope she's okay. Right. But she's
probably going to have. We should probably get to have some therapy as a result of it now. She probably felt under threat in that circumstance as well. Jack, we got a break here. Can you just hang on with us? Hang on, we'll bring you back in the next segment, because I want to get your thoughts on this Fauci stuff that we're beginning to hear as well. Moving the goalposts again, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the highest paid bureaucrat in the United States government, is in your face, changing the rules, changing the narrative every single day to protect him, to protect his friends. And guess what? Democrats, Joe Biden, that whole regime, you now have to own Dr. Anthony Fauci, and you're welcome to him. We'll be right back.